Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. We invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful and brief. In this episode, we have Simon Thillay, head of ASO at AppTweak. Simon, welcome back to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
It's been a while. Thank you for coming again. It's good to see you. All right, I'm going to start with setting the stage. So, your phone has become an extension of your brain. You store a ton of information on it. You use it to get through your day or to plan something in advance. You're working on it. You're spending your leisure time with it. Every once in a while, when your existing 80 or 100 iOS apps, this is how much apps we have on our phones these days, aren't enough, and you need a new one, you go to the App Store. When you launch a search query there, the first search results you can see is in a blue background. This is an Apple search ad. Whether you've been driving traffic to your iOS app with Apple search ads, or you never used this paid advertising platform before, today Simon will tell you how to use it efficiently. But before we dive in, Simon, tell us about your background.
I've been working in app growth for, I would say, almost 7 years now. Actually, more than 7 years now. I started my career at Deezer, a somewhat famous music streaming service based in France. And that's basically where I started playing around things like App Store optimization, a bit of SEO, definitely some attribution questions. It was a time of GDPR, a very fun moment to get started in the industry. And then 5 years ago, I made a move to join AppTweak. AppTweak back then was an up and coming startup in the ASO space, and 5 years later, we're an App Store marketing platform. So we now cover a lot more around everything App Store related, including ads, including things like review management, reporting, which, as a lot of your audience knows, is always something that comes back. And personally, I collaborate with a team in charge of services that can be offered to the enterprise clients of AppTweak, trying to basically offer consultancy on a variety of topics, including Apple search ads.
Do you still listen to music on Deezer?
Yeah, actually, I do. I switch between different platforms depending on what I listen to. I have started using Deezer a bit more for podcasts as well, but it's especially where my music is these days.
I see, great. So, AppTweak, I checked your team page on the website. You guys have more than 60 people. You guys are growing. Tell me about your company. What do you guys do?
So yeah, as I was saying, it's we are a SaaS company, and we aim to help any app developer deal with any marketing challenge they can get from the App Store or the Play Store. So really, the historical part of the business is App Store optimization, helping developers understand things like which keywords to use in their metadata in their store pages to get search traffic, but also look into what's being done on the creative side and how to improve your conversion, how to analyze better the different data points available in store consoles, etc. And then a while ago now, Apple introduced Apple Search Ads, and so while we have added multiple components to the platform beyond ASO, I think right now Apple Search Ads is a big one because in recent years it's really gotten some traction, and so we're building a campaign manager so that people can optimize their campaigns within AppTweak and benefit from all of the ASO knowledge we've accumulated over the years, since ASO and ASA are really close, and basically get the best out of any keyword they target, for instance.
Okay, now please give us a thumbnail sketch of Apple search ads.
For sure. So for those not familiar, today there are actually four different types of inventories in Apple Search Ads. The one I think most people are familiar with, and the one you were mentioning in your intro, is search results campaigns, which is basically being able to put an ad at the very top of a search result page, and based on what a potential customer has just searched for. But there's three more that Apple has released over the years. The second one is a search tab, so it's another ad that you can see before people start typing in the search tab. And it's basically a game of trying to catch the attention and play on other signals to kind of convert there. A third one would be the product page. So if people scroll down to the bottom of the page and look at the "You might also like" section, there will also be an ad in there. But I think the final placement, the final inventory, is the one that gets the most hype these days. It's the Today tab, because that's where a lot of people start their day on the App Store, or at least when they open their App Store on a given day. And so you get the opportunity to kind of get a ton of impression. It's really hard to quantify, but it's definitely some of the highest numbers you can get from search ads in terms of impressions. The challenge can be to convert, but there's definitely this interesting moment where you can maximize your exposure to the size of the app store, and hope to get some of that exposure converted into taps and into installs.
So to sum up what you're saying, Simon, is that obviously Apple knows the best its own App Store, and these four options they provide on Apple Search Ads platform allow any advertisers to drive native traffic on the iOS App Store. This is the best way to reach out people who are using iOS apps, because the intent to find a specific app is obviously there when they fire up the App Store application on their iPhones. So this is the Apple Search Ads. Now, based on your your experience working with clients like SoundCloud, how do you balance optimizing campaigns for keyword discovery versus maintaining strong performance on existing high-performing keywords in Apple Search Ads?
I think just like with ASO, we tend to say it's a lot of iterations, but maybe the important part to mention is the true nature of discovery, because Apple do their job well, and therefore they have, among the campaign options you have, they have an algorithm that can select keywords, or rather, I should say, search terms, since this is how they refer to those. So search terms, either based on one keyword you input, and it would look around that keyword to find as many relevant search terms as possible, or they even have another algorithm which they call the search match, that you can use to just say, you are the App Store, you probably have better data than I do, and I'm going to give you a few constraints. Try and find me installs coming at a decent price, for instance. Not even inputting any kind of initial keyword that would have to be taken into account. And so the challenge with these is that while the algorithms are quite powerful, people tend to forget about the constraints part. And so a regular setup would be in Apple Search Ads to have maybe a brand defense campaign, It's sometimes controversial, and we'll probably get to that, but I would say most people would have one. Then you would have a campaign targeting some of your competitors because you know them already. You don't need anyone to give you inspiration for those. And then maybe add a few generic terms because we all still can think about non-brands that people may search for in the App Store and that relate to our products. And then you have the fourth one, which is a discovery. And the idea is I'm going to have my default set that I can brainstorm on my own. And I'm going to add a campaign where Apple is going to do the work for me and just find the good keywords. What people miss here is that it may be called a discovery campaign, but the campaign part trumps the discovery part. And in other words, at first the campaign is going to find keywords that fit the criteria you've set. But once it's found those keywords, unless you give it different instructions, it's going to stay focused on those. It's basically the principle of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We found something that's working, keep targeting these keywords. And so what we've done at AppTweak is work on ways to change that by having what we call dynamic pipelines, where we create discovery campaigns, gives them lower budgets than we would our other campaigns, gives them rather low targets in terms of bids and cost per install. And we just want to see what keywords come out of these campaigns, especially what are the conversion rates from the keywords coming out of these campaigns, to make a selection. And if we see a keyword looks promising in the settings that was given, we're actually going to remove it from the discovery campaign by adding it as a negative search match, negative match. And we're going to add it into one of our other campaigns where we're going to have more budget. We're going to have other automation rules to try and scale performance on that keyword. And so really the important part is to say people need to remember that if they really want to have a discovery campaign where discovery is the important part, what they need to do is have a few other campaigns where any keyword that is discovered is sent once it's been proven it's good, and making sure that the discovery campaign itself is forced to reinvent itself every day or week or month if it's really going bad. But making sure that you kind of nudge that algorithm to keep working and not become lazy because it found something that works with the constraints you had given.
So you guys on the AppTweak platform actually show advertisers that the keyword discovery with Apple search ads happens only once, and it shouldn't be done once. They can do it repeatedly by using AppTweak tools. This is great. Now, let's talk about AI. How do you effectively use AI, like your own AppTweak's Atlas AI, to identify and cluster high-performing keywords for Apple search ads campaigns? And how does it impact overall ASO strategy?
So a few years ago, our data science team embarked on a journey to try and sort all the data AppTweak had in sort of one go. It was a very exciting project. I probably understood 10% of it, but what we got out of it is something we call Atlas AI. It's a homemade algorithm that is basically fed all the data we have in terms of keywords. So keywords and apps actually. So we're able to have this sort of map of the store where we can see any keyword and its distance to any app or its distance to any other keyword, and basically start spotting which terms are semantically close in the context of the App Store and which terms or which apps are not. And so to give maybe practical examples of what we find with such tool, if I were to ask you what is the difference between run and running, you'd probably say this is pretty much the same word. But when you look at the App Store, run is something people search for when they search for games. Think Temple Run, think Subway Surfers. Whereas running is about uh, running apps. So it's going to be things like Strava, like things to measure your performance when you go out and exercise. So they're very different, and this is the kind of things that we can see. Now, when we apply this to search ads, basically, the method I mentioned before on keeping your discovery campaign discovering, when you rely on the search match algorithm from Apple, at first, like the very first time, it's probably very quick to find keywords, and it's more about telling it, okay, these ones I like, I'm going to move them to another campaign, try again. But after you start telling Apple to try again and again and again, that algorithm we have found actually starts showing a bit of exhaustion. It starts struggling more to find certain keywords, or to be more specific, to show you the keywords it's targeting. Because Apple has a rule where if you get fewer than 10 impressions a day, it will display a line saying low volume term instead of telling you what the keyword was. And there's a lot of keywords like that, which individually don't look very promising, but if you put them all together, you start creating a decent amount of traffic. And so, what Atlas AI allows us to do is add to the discovery capabilities while knowing what we're doing by basically saying we're going to go for the exact match campaign, but build a discovery campaign anyway. And so this is a feature that's actually going to come to our campaign management tool later this year. I started seeing it in staging, so I think it's soon there, but it might still take a little time. And it basically allows to say, if you see your search match campaign starting to slow down in what it finds, that's a good moment to come talk to AppTweak and say, could I try this? Because we can probably help you find more keywords beyond what Apple is able to disclose.
I see. So it's pretty much exciting update is coming up for AppTweak later on this year. And by the way, what you're describing about the Atlas AI, it sounds to me not like large language model, but large app store model. The connection between the keywords, the big map, um, being able to see contextual connections between the words. Now, my next question is this. Cannibalization is a common challenge in Apple search ads. Could you walk us through how do you measure and mitigate the impact of cannibalization on brand defense campaigns while maintaining healthy return on ad spend?
Absolutely. So, cannibalization is the way people usually describe that moment where you start bidding on your own brand to avoid someone else doing that and stealing your keywords, or at least feeling like you're being stolen install that should have rightfully come to you. That's debatable, but we all have that instinct to say that's my brand. And so for a long time, I would hear clients say either we don't like having to do it, but we do it anyway because it feels like it's a game that we can't win, or say we have a principle and we don't defend our brand at all. And so we try to say, well, isn't there a smarter way, or at least a better way to use data to decide on these kind of situations? And what we realize is that whether you're using certain assumptions to make to guesstimate what would be the amount of installs that your competitors would be able to get from your brand keyword if you don't defend it, or alternatively, if you just do an on-off test to see how much you lose according to App Store Connect on a given week without brand defense, what we get from that is the idea of what percentage is properly defended, what percentage is so-called cannibalized, and then take this into what we call the cost per protected install, where we look just at basically what other tools might call an effective CPI. That cost per protected install, we can revert it and just consider that if we know what is going to be the percentage of effective defense and the percentage of overkill defense, we can just change our bids. And so what we want to make sure is that instead of saying we either do defend the brand or we don't, we just are going to zoom in at as to what's the most efficient cost at which we can do this. And so we may actually drive the bids down, but we won't shut them down completely, because we know there's always a certain percentage that you end up defending even at a very low bid. And that's because Apple knows that you have the best relevancy for your own brand. And so from then on, our entire goal is just to come up with a proper estimation for that cost per protected install, see how it should change the way we bid, and that's where we just look at the cost per protected install, the cost per install of other campaigns, and try to find a proper balance so that we have the most effective spend. And we're going to keep spending on Apple Search Ads. We're just going to make sure that the money goes where it's most effective. And so if there's any money that's not spent on brand defense, it's because then it should be spent on a keyword that's effectively cheaper, because sometimes there are some of those.
Gotcha. That's brilliant. Okay, before I let you go, very, very final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
I'd say AppTweak. AppTweak's website is always a good place to get familiar and get in touch with the company. With me personally, LinkedIn is probably the safest bet. I'm also on the ASO Stack Slack, or at least I try to visit every now and then. But yeah, I'd say LinkedIn is probably where I'll be most reactive when it comes to chatting with people wanting to know a bit more about our services.
This is great, terrific. Thank you for coming, and thank you for explaining all these lessons, the insights about ASO versus Apple Search Ads, and how we can actually deal with cannibalization, how we can use AI to put your ASO game on the next level, and how you can actually work with Apple Search Ads effectively and be a good, effective app marketer. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Always a pleasure. Bye.
And that was Simon Thillay, head of ASO at AppTweak. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes of this show on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.